Village of Nandala was a patchwork of mud huts with thatched roofs, surrounded by golden fields that swayed in the breeze. Goats bleated from their pens, children's laughter echoed through the narrow dirt paths, and the scent of roasted cassava filled the air. Alongside the meandering river, clusters of women in colorful wraps knelt to wash clothes, their hands skillfully twisting and wringing the fabric beneath the sun. Zuri, a young woman of 19, stood apart from the chatter. Her slender frame was bent slightly as she scrubbed a faded cloth in the water. Her ebony skin gleamed in the sunlight, and her delicate face was framed by long, neat braids. Though her hands were worn from years of labor, there was a grace in her movements. But the villagers' whispers often followed her. She was only a baby when her parents died. Baba Juma and Mama Adia took her in, but how long can they care for? No dowry, no inheritance, a burden. Zuri heard them, but she did not flinch. She had grown used to their words. She finished her task, collected her woven basket, and walked the dusty path back to Baba Juma's home. The small hut was humble, the walls cracked from years of rain and wind, but inside was warmth. Baba Juma, a wiry man with silver hair, sat outside repairing a wooden stool. His hands were strong, his face lined with wisdom. Beside him, Mama Adia stirred a pot of millet porridge over the open fire. The village of Nandala was a patchwork of mud huts with thatched roofs, surrounded by golden fields. Her soft smile was a comfort Zuri cherished. That night, as the orange glow of the fire cast dancing shadows on the walls, Baba Juma's voice broke the silence. Baba Juma, gently, "Zuri, my child, there is something we must discuss." Zuri's heart tightened. She knew the tone of worry in his voice. Mama Adia, softly, "Kwame has asked for your hand in marriage." Zuri, surprised, "Kwame? The woodcutter's son?" Baba Juma nodded. "Baba Juma. He has little, but he is a good man. He will treat you well." Zuri swallowed hard. Marriage. The word was heavy. She had dreamed of love, of laughter, but also feared the uncertainty that came with it. Zuri, quietly, "If you believe it is right, I will marry him." Mama Adia reached across the fire, her eyes glistening. Mama Adia, "A loving heart is more precious than gold." The next morning, the air was filled with the hum of cicadas. Under the shade of the large baobab tree, Kwame approached. His tall frame was sturdy from years of labor, his skin bronzed from the sun. His dark eyes, though weary, held kindness. He wore a simple tunic, patched and faded. A single leather bracelet wrapped around his wrist, a memento from his late mother. Kwame, bowing respectfully, "Baba Juma, Mama Adia, I come humbly to ask for Zuri's hand." Zuri's gaze met Kwame's. She studied the sincerity in his face. There was no gold on his fingers, no riches to his name, only honesty. "Zuri, gently, a man's worth is not measured by his wealth, but by his heart." Kwame's lips curled into a faint smile. "Kwame, I may not have gold to offer, but I will work each day to bring joy to your life." The village elders nodded their approval. The whispers that once spoke of Zuri's misfortune were now replaced with murmurs of admiration. "Elder, may your union be blessed, as the river blesses the land." Kwame's home was a simple mud hut on the outskirts of the village, nestled beneath the shade of acacia trees. The air inside was thick with the earthy scent of clay. A small woven mat rested in the corner, and a wooden stool stood near the unlit hearth. There were no silk curtains, no shining ornaments, only the bare essentials. Zuri stepped inside, her bare feet brushing against the cool dirt floor. Kwame, softly, "It is not much, but it is ours." Zuri touched the rough walls, her fingers tracing the cracks. Despite the poverty, there was warmth here, a feeling of belonging. Zuri, smiling, "A house is built with hands, but a home is built with love." Kwame felt a wave of gratitude. Though his hands were calloused from labor, he knew they would now work for both of them. The sun set in a golden blaze on their wedding day. Women adorned Zuri in a white cotton gown, its fabric woven with tiny cowrie shells that clinked softly with her every movement. Her hair was braided with fresh flowers, and henna traced delicate patterns along her hands. Under the sprawling branches of the baobab tree, the villagers gathered. Elders chanted blessings, their voices deep and resonant. Children ran barefoot through the dust, their laughter echoing in the twilight. Kwame stood beneath the tree, his eyes never leaving Zuri as she approached. She looked like a vision of the earth itself, simple yet radiant. The elder placed their hands together. Elder, may your hearts beat as one, like the roots of the mighty baobab that binds the earth. Kwame's voice trembled as he spoke. Kwame, I promise to honor you, to stand beside you through storm and sunshine. Zuri's eyes shimmered. And I promise to walk with you through every valley and mountain, with love as my guide. Their vows sealed, the villagers cheered. There was no gold, no feast, but there was joy. The morning sun spilled golden light over the village as the sound of roosters echoed through the air. The scent of damp earth mixed with the sweet fragrance of wildflowers. Zuri awoke on the woven mat beside Kwame, the warmth of his presence reassuring. The hut was small, with cracks in the walls, but it felt like a sanctuary. She listened to the soft breathing of her husband. Kwame's face, though hardened by years of labor, carried a certain gentleness. He stirred, his calloused hand instinctively finding hers. Kwame, sleepily, "Good morning, my wife." Zuri smiled, savoring the words. The title still felt unfamiliar, but comforting. "Good morning." She rose to start her day, the rhythmic clatter of wooden pestles from nearby homes filling the morning air. Outside, the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. A few goats wandered the narrow dirt path, and the villagers greeted one another with nods and smiles. Kwame emerged from the hut, stretching his strong arms. He picked up his axe, its wooden handle worn from years of use. Kwame, teasing, "Today, I conquer the tallest tree in the forest." Zuri, smiling, "And I will conquer the cooking pot." The laughter between them was light, though they both knew the day ahead would be filled with toil. Kwame worked as a woodcutter, spending hours in the dense forest, his axe striking against the ancient trees. Zuri would fetch water from the river, tend to their small vegetable patch, and weave mats to sell at the market. The river flowed like a ribbon of silver, its surface shimmering beneath the sun. Women gathered along the banks, their laughter mingling with the songs of the birds. Zuri knelt beside the water, her clay pot resting on the edge. A group of village women stood nearby, their eyes lingering on her. Woman, whispering, "She married Kwame, the woodcutter. No gold, no cattle." Another, scoffing, "She could have waited for a wealthier man." Foolish girl. Zuri's hands tightened around the pot, but she remained silent. She had grown used to their words. Though they spoke of gold as the measure of happiness, Zuri knew otherwise. As she filled her pot, a young girl approached, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Young girl, is it true that you chose love over riches?" Zuri knelt to meet the child's gaze. Zuri, smiling gently, "Riches are like the river's current. They come and go, but love is the river itself, always flowing." The girl's face brightened with understanding, and Zuri carried her pot back toward the village, her heart steady. Weeks passed, and the couple's bond grew stronger. Kwame's laughter filled their home, and Zuri's hands brought life to their humble space. They shared stories by the fire, their laughter echoing into the night. But Kwame's past remained a mystery. Some nights, Zuri noticed a far-off look in his eyes, as though he carried a burden unseen. He never spoke of his family or what had led him to the village. The villagers whispered of it too. No one knows where Kwame came from. He appeared one day with only an axe and a tattered cloak. They say he fled from something. Despite the rumors, Zuri trusted her husband. Yet the questions lingered. One evening, as the sky darkened and the crickets sang, Zuri found Kwame sitting outside beneath the stars. "Zuri," softly, "Kwame, what troubles you?" He hesitated, the shadows of the past flickering in his eyes. Kwame, whispering, "There are things I have not told you, but not because I do not trust you, only because I wish to leave them behind." Zuri reached for his hand, her fingers lacing with his. "When you are ready, I will listen." Kwame nodded, though the weight of his secret remained. He knew the truth would not stay hidden forever. The days in the village of Nandala passed steadily. The sun's golden glow bathed the fields each morning, and by night the distant hum of crickets lulled the villagers to sleep. Yet beneath the peace, a storm of questions brewed within Zuri. Kwame's past lingered like a shadow. Though he showed her nothing but kindness, moments of silence would sometimes steal over him, and his gaze would drift beyond the horizon. It was as if the weight of distant memories held him captive. One afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Zuri returned from the market. The air was thick with the scent of roasted maize and groundnut stew. She passed a group of village women, their laughter pausing as she approached. Woman 1, lowering her voice, "They say Kwame was once a wealthy man." Woman 2, nodding, "But he lost everything. Why else would a man like him choose a life of poverty?" Zuri's heart tightened. The words clung to her like dust. Was it true? Had Kwame once lived a different life? That evening, as the orange light of the setting sun painted their small home, Zuri found Kwame tending to the hearth. The soft crackle of the fire filled the silence. Zuri, gently, "Kwame, I heard the women speaking today." Kwame's hand froze over the pot of simmering millet porridge. His jaw tightened, though he did not meet her gaze. Kwame, quietly, "And what did they say?" "They say you were once a wealthy man, that you lost everything." The words hung heavily in the air. Kwame's shoulders sagged beneath the weight of the past. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "It is true." Zuri's breath caught. "But why did you never tell me?" He turned to her, his eyes dark with regret. "Because I did not wish my past to define our future. I wanted you to love me for who I am now, not for what I once had." Zuri's heart ached. She reached for his calloused hands, feeling the strength in them. "I chose you not for your wealth, but for your heart." Kwame's eyes softened, but still the burden remained. He knew that one day she would have to learn the whole truth. Days later, the village's peaceful rhythm was interrupted. A cloud of dust rose along the narrow dirt road as a polished black carriage approached. Its wheels creaked, and the sun gleamed against its brass fixtures. Villagers gathered, murmuring in curiosity. From the carriage emerged a tall man in fine silk robes. His broad shoulders and regal posture spoke of power. His face was stern, with sharp eyes that swept over the village like a hawk. Behind him stood 2 guards, their presence commanding. Zuri stood near the well, her heart pounding. She watched as the stranger approached Kwame, who had been chopping wood near the edge of the forest. Stranger, sternly, "Kwame." Kwame's axe stilled. He turned, his expression unreadable. "You should not have come." Zuri's chest tightened. Who was this man? The stranger's voice lowered, though the tension in it was clear. "The kingdom still remembers your name. You cannot run from it." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Whispers swirled. "Kingdom? What is he talking about?" Kwame's voice was steady, though his eyes burned with a restrained fire. "I chose a different path. My wealth means nothing here." The stranger scoffed. "Your wealth could change the lives of many. And yet, you live like a beggar." Kwame's fists clenched, but he said nothing. The stranger's gaze shifted to Zuri, his brows furrowing. "And this is the wife you chose?" Zuri met his gaze, refusing to flinch. A man's worth is not measured by his gold, but by his heart. For a moment, the stranger seemed caught off guard. Then, without another word, he turned and retreated to his carriage. But his arrival had stirred the village. The whispers grew louder, and Zuri knew the truth could no longer remain hidden. That night, the flickering light of the fire danced across the walls of their small hut. Kwame sat in silence, his hands clasped tightly. Zuri knelt beside him, her voice soft. "Tell me everything." Kwame drew a shaky breath, the weight of the years pressing down upon him. "I was not always a poor woodcutter. I am the son of one of the wealthiest families in the kingdom of Karumo. My father built his fortune from gold and trade. But wealth poisoned our family, greed consumed my brothers. They fought not with swords, but with schemes and lies." Zuri listened, her heart aching. "Kwame, when my father died, I was expected to take his place, but I wanted no part of it. I walked away, leaving behind the riches that had destroyed my family. I came to Nandala to find peace. Tears welled in Zuri's eyes. And you never wished to return? Kwame shook his head. Not once. Until you, I never knew true happiness. You taught me that joy does not come from gold, but from the love we share. Zuri cupped his face, her voice steady. Then let the past stay where it belongs. We will write our own story, one not bound by wealth or titles. Kwame nodded, a wave of relief washing over him, but even as the flames crackled in the hearth, both knew that the past had not yet released its hold. The sun had barely risen when the village awoke to murmurs. The news of Kwame's hidden past had spread like wildfire. From the market stalls to the riverbank, the villagers whispered about the woodcutter who was once a wealthy heir. Zuri walked through the village with her basket of woven mats, feeling the weight of their stares. Some were curious, others envious. A few even looked at her with newfound respect, as if the revelation of Kwame's riches elevated her in their eyes. Woman 1, whispering, "She's not just a poor man's wife, she's the wife of a prince." Woman 2, "Imagine the fortune he abandoned." Zuri ignored the whispers, but they clung to her like dust. She longed for the simplicity they had before, when no one cared for their wealth, only their kindness. Inside their small hut, the air was heavy. Kwame sat at the edge of their bed, his hands roughened from years of labor. Zuri approached, her fingers trailing along the worn wooden table. Zuri, softly, "They see you differently now." Kwame sighed, his gaze fixed on the floor. "Kwame, I feared this would happen. Wealth is like a shadow. Once people see it, they forget everything else." Zuri knelt beside him, her hands wrapping around his. "But I see you. Not as the man they whisper about, but as the husband who shares laughter by the fire, the man who carries water from the well, the one who loves me without measure." Kwame's eyes softened, but the burden remained. "The stranger will return. My family will not let me go so easily. They see my absence as a betrayal." Zuri's jaw tightened. "Then let them come. Whatever they demand, we will face it together." Kwame nodded, drawing strength from her unwavering resolve. Days passed and the stranger returned. This time he did not come alone. A caravan of gilded carriages rolled into the village square, their wheels leaving deep tracks in the dirt. Servants in fine robes unloaded chests bound with brass locks. Kwame and Zuri stood at the edge of the crowd, their hands clasped. The stranger stepped forward, his voice commanding, "Kwame of Karumo, your family summons you. They offer you what is rightfully yours: the estate, the gold, the power." The villagers gasped. Before them, the chests were opened, revealing piles of gold coins that gleamed like captured sunlight. Precious gems glittered atop fine silks. "Stranger, return to your rightful place, and all this will be yours." Kwame's expression remained unreadable. Zuri's heart pounded. She knew the temptation wealth could bring, how it could twist even the noblest hearts. "Kwame, calmly, I gave up this gold long ago." The stranger's smile faltered. "Would you truly turn away from a life of comfort? No more hunger, no more toil." Kwame's voice was steady. "I know the weight of gold. It can chain a man's spirit. But here, I am free." The crowd murmured, stunned by his refusal. Zuri's eyes welled with pride, but the stranger was not finished. "And what of your wife? Would she not wish for fine silks and golden bracelets?" The stranger's eyes narrowed at Zuri, expecting uncertainty, but she stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "I need no gold to know the richness of love. My heart is full." The villagers fell silent, their awe evident. Even the stranger, for all his power, could find no words. The days that followed were a testament to the strength of their choice. The stranger departed, the golden chests left untouched. The villagers, once so captivated by the promise of riches, began to see the truth. They saw how Kwame and Zuri's joy was not bound by wealth. They saw how they built their happiness from the simple moments, laughter shared over a humble meal, songs sung beneath the stars, and the quiet strength of enduring love. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Zuri and Kwame sat beneath the baobab tree. The leaves rustled like whispered secrets. Kwame, smiling. They called. Me a fool for leaving my fortune. Zuri traced her fingers along his calloused hand. But you are the richest man I know, and I am the richest woman, for I have your heart. He leaned in, his forehead resting gently against hers. Kwame, whispering. Then we have all we need. The stars blinked above them, bearing witness to a love that no gold could ever match. And in that moment they knew true wealth was not in what they possessed, but in the unwavering bond they shared. The days passed with a newfound calm, but Zuri's thoughts churned like the river after a heavy rain. Each time she saw the worn cracks in their mud walls or a hungry child at the market, her heart ached. The untouched gold, it had glimmered like sunlight. But instead of temptation, Zuri saw possibility. One evening, as they sat under the baobab tree, the scent of roasted cassava hanging in the air, Zuri rested her head against Kwame's shoulder. Zuri, softly, my love, look at the bright side. Kwame, smiling faintly, the bright side of refusing a kingdom? Number, the bright side that you are a rich man, not just in heart, but in birthright. That fortune, that legacy, it's yours. But you could make it better than your father did. You could take it and change lives. Not just ours, but our village. All of Nandala. Kwame was silent. Zuri, think of the children who don't go to school, the mothers who give birth without help, the fields that die in the dry season. We could dig wells, build homes, train healers. We could help avoid the greed that destroyed your family. We could rewrite your legacy. Kwame turned to look into her eyes, searching her face. And if I become king, what then? Then you'll be a king who once lived as a woodcutter, a king who understands the weight of hunger, the joy of honest love. And I will stand by you as queen, not to wear a crown, but to walk beside you, to build something that lasts. Kwame took her hand and pressed it to his chest. His heart beat strong, steady. Then we do it together, for Nandala, for our people. Word spread quickly. The prince had accepted his crown, but this return was not like the tales of old. No war horns, no trumpets, only quiet purpose. The golden carriages returned to the village, but this time Zuri and Kwame stepped inside. Baba Juma and Mama Adia stood beside the villagers, pride glistening in their aging eyes. Kwame, hugging Baba Juma. You gave me a life when I had none. Zuri, embracing Mama Adia. You taught me love before I knew my worth. Baba Juma, then go and give the world the same. The people of Nandala cheered as the carriage rolled out, not for riches, but for hope. Karumo was a sprawling land of marble towers and market squares bursting with color. When Kwame returned, his brothers and advisors were stunned. But he did not come for vengeance. He came with vision. He reclaimed his birthright. But not to sit idle. Kwame gave away the golden chests he once refused, to build schools in every village, to dig wells in every dry corner of the land, to equip clinics and create markets where artisans and farmers could thrive. Zuri led programs for women and girls, teaching them trade, dignity, and leadership. Her words stirred hearts, and her presence became a beacon for change. She turned the palace into a refuge, a place where orphans, widows, and displaced people could find shelter, food, and purpose. And together they passed a new law. Every village, no matter how small, would have a voice in the king's council. Years passed. Nandala transformed. Where once there were cracked huts, now stood homes of stone and wood. A large school with open windows echoed with the laughter of children. A clinic offered care by trained healers. Fields flourished with irrigation canals dug by royal engineers. And at the center of it all stood a hall built with hands from the village, bearing the name Juma Adia House, in honor of the parents who raised a child they never birthed and taught her to lead with love. Baba Juma and Mama Adia, now old, were honored as elders of the realm, given a home near the baobab tree with a porch that faced the sunrise. Kwame and Zuri ruled not with fists, but with open hands. They traveled to distant lands to form alliances, to share wisdom, to learn and give. And in every corner of the kingdom their love story was told, of a woodcutter and an orphan who chose each other over gold, only to use gold to serve others. And each year, on their wedding anniversary, they returned to the baobab tree where it all began. They sat beneath its shade, their hands intertwined, hearts still young. Zuri, do you remember when they called you a fool? Kwame, smiling. Yes, now they call me king. But I still call you husband. He leaned in just as he had on that first quiet night. And I still call you my heart. The wind rustled the leaves, the stars blinked above. And so their story lived on, not just in legend, but in the lives they touched, the futures they changed, and the love that never once sought a crown, yet wore it with honor. The end. Moral of the story: true wealth is not in what you keep, but in what you give. And true royalty is not in gold or titles, but in the love that builds, the hands that serve, and the hearts that lead. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Thank you.